the vice chair.
Oh, gosh, yeah, I am, okay.
One each.
I'm so sorry, okay. All right, so, call the meeting to order and, there we go.
You can start now, sorry.
Okay, great. I'll call the meeting to order and, let's see, do I need to make the announcement of the meeting procedure? Do I?
I don't know.
No, okay.
We can do
All right.
roll. We don't have, we can skip roll since we're not doing Zoom.
We need to do roll at the beginning of the meeting. We just don't have to do it with every vote.
Okay.
Okay, roll call, please.
Yes, Director Hernandez,
Present.
Vice Chair Kick is absent, Chair Testa,
Present?
we have a quorum.
Great. All right, then meeting open to the public. Do we have any public that would like to speak?
Not seeing anyone.
Nobody
Okay.
here in the audience.
Okay. And no one, we're not online or we are?
We were on, we are, there's nobody, I
Nobody
believe
there.
there's nobody there. I'm not in
Great.
charge.
All right, thanks. Then, let's see, I'd like to approve the minutes from October 24, 23. Do I have a motion?
Sure, I'll have a motion to approve the minutes from October 24th, 2023.
Okay, and I guess I'll second that. So, we don't need another, just an all in favor after this. Okay, so, all in favor? Aye. Okay, and opposed? No. Okay, so, motion passes. Then, treasurer's report. Staff.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm presenting to you the December 2023 Treasurer's Report. We are, well, at the end of December, we are 50% through our year. Our cash flow has, or our incoming deposits have slowed down because they tend to kind of front load at the beginning of the second quarter. So we currently have $8 million in our general checking and 11.4 million in our LAIF account. Our expenses are at 44.32%. Our revenues are 43.7. So we have a few more coming in for the year, but we are on track for the budget. Any questions?
Great. So are there any questions or discussion?
I have no questions.
Okay, nor do I. So, do I have, a motion to approve or is this an action item?
I will go ahead and approve the treasurer's report and send it to the rest of the board.
Okay. So, and I'll second that, and we need all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and opposed? No. Okay, item number 6, declaration of surplus property in compliance with LAVTA policy for disposition of surplus property.
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Dave Massler. I'm the capital project manager for the agency. We request that the committee recommend to the board of directors that they approve resolution 3-2024 and declare the attached vehicles listed as surplus property and authorize the executive director to determine the best method of disposition. LAFTA has 14 transit buses that are fully depreciated, 6 2003 models, 1 2007 model, and 7 2009 models. The buses have already been replaced as part of procurements in 2016 and 2022. Welcome. All of the parts are useful.
Sorry.
That is,
For the record, Director Kick has joined us at 4:05.
no, thank you. LAFTA's policy for disposition of surplus property requires that the board of directors declare any property with an original actual acquisition cost of $25,000 and any rolling stock, regardless of acquisition cost, as surplus and specify the method of disposition. Our policy reads that we can accept sealed bids, negotiated sales, trade-in, donation, or scrap. We recommend that selling these vehicles through a negotiated sale or sealed bid, specifically with the auction site that we have used before and has proved successful in the past. If no sales result, we will look into scrapping the vehicles. So,
Okay, great. Well, thank you for that report. Do we have any questions from the board?
Just how much generally do we end up getting for each bus?
well, this is gonna be different. In the past, they've all been just powered by diesel, so just straight diesel buses. This time, we're actually, disposing of hybrid buses. So your guess is as good as mine. I would say probably between 10 and 15,000.
Okay.
But apparently, we have to give that all back to the FTA now.
Not all of it, but a large chunk of it, depending on the dollar amount. Anything sold for over $5,000, the FTA gets their percentage back.
Oh,
That they pay for, so.
So 6 of the 14 are straight diesel buses. We probably get $5,000 or less for those.
okay, so then we would keep the 5,000, and
So
it
what
would be under.
Okay,
Buy it now.
Yeah, well, it is a straight auction, so, we sit there and watch on those last days, we're like, please don't bid it up, but then again, you can't help but be happy if you get a little bit more. And then the remaining buses are all hybrid, one of them has been damaged, so we will go for less, but the 2009 buses are all in really good shape.
I think something's better than nothing.
For sure.
Okay, well, that's all very interesting. Any other questions? Okay, then, we, need a motion to recommend the Finance and Administration Committee refer the resolution to the board for approval, declaring as surplus 14 transit buses and authorize their disposal through method consistent with LAVTA policy. Do I have a motion?
Yeah, to the method of actually, putting them up for auction. Got it. All right, I will motion that we do that.
A second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, then on to, motion passes. We go to item 7, legislative program.
Great, and I'm gonna turn it over to Jennifer Gaines. who's going to walk you through.
Really couldn't be more different than the previous item. Get ready to proverbially shift gears, but in no way literally shift gears. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Today I have for you a proposed 2024 legislative program for the committee's consideration and approval by the board of directors. The reason LAVTA adopts a legislative program every year, if you were on this committee this time last year, you may remember discussing it. It's generally organized around LAVTA's mission statement, which is included in the staff report to provide equal access to a variety of safe, affordable, and reliable public transportation choices, increasing the mobility and improving the quality of life of those who live or work in and visit the Tri-Valley area. We generally build our program around 4 main principles, sort of irrespective of specific policies, but generally trying to protect and enhance our current and future transportation funding sources. Enhancing operating conditions to support safety and performance goals. Enhancing public transit's role in addressing climate change and air quality issues. And finally, leveraging support from and with partners to promote mobility, improve service productivity, and enhance regional leadership. That last one is a bit of a catch-all. But that's how we organize the program around. I included an attachment to this year's draft legislative program, which highlights, the specific items that we'll be looking for. A lot of these carry over from the previous years, but there's a lot of new things that I'll touch on briefly before you dive through attachment 2. I just wanted to let you know kind of how it's generally organized. When we develop the program every year, it's generally, we consult with our partner agencies, just other transit agencies, other transportation agencies. We look at, the Alameda County Transportation Commission, what they're looking at. What the Metropolitan Transportation is looking at, and especially our advocacy partners like California Transit Association, CalAct, and the American Public Transit Association. So we pull in what we think of as a pretty circumspect view at the local, state, and federal levels. Normally I included these reports like a little snapshot of like, hey, here's everything that's going on, in the state, federal and regional landscapes. And I bypassed that this time just because there's kind of a lot to talk about, but there's really not much in the way of firm proposals we're acting to yet. But I think just by way of summary, the first thing we're looking at this time of year going into budget season is, hey, how are all the funding sources shaping up, right? And I think what we're hearing is probably similar to what you are hearing for your respective jurisdictions, which is, the funding picture is, remains sort of cautiously optimistic, but it's complicated out there. And different revenue streams are being impacted by different things, right now for various reasons. For us, what that means, at the federal level, we're 4 months into FY 24 and there's no full year appropriations done yet. We have an outstanding earmark request from FY 24 to build out our hydrogen station that's still, being discussed in Washington or not. The current continuing resolution goes through, I think, March 1st. So, we'll know more in the coming months, kind of what Congress has planned for basically the funding sources that we would rely on for our basic routine capital needs, as well as discretionary opportunities that we want to fund things like, building our Atlantis facility. So until FY 24 is finished, we can't start talking about how much funding we might want Congress to consider for FY 25. For the state, you've probably heard the state budget is a bit of a, it's just, it's a different picture right now. I think, I think you probably know the reasons why. There's just, there's this lag in, the revenue estimates based on taxpayers having more time to file last year. There's a lot going on, but I think the latest is that the deficit is 38 billion, which is about half of what the LAO was forecasting in the fall, which I guess was like the most dire possible thing they could have thought of then. So, the governor and the state agencies and the legislature are gonna work it out in the usual process by the June 15th constitutional deadline to adopt the budget. There's a lot in play about transit funding in that, and I would just say, we and our funding partners are keeping close tabs on these discussions. But generally, the aim is to, make sure we're honoring all the past commitments. There was a 2-year deal struck in last year's budget deal that now folks are trying to go, well, what if we didn't do the second year of that? And trying to make sure we're getting full funding for the discretionary programs that, again, we need to implement our big priorities. And then, locally, I think there's a lot of discussion about the Metropolitan Transportation Commission's proposed revenue measure. There's a lot of discussion about it. There's not much detail yet. It's still very much in the kitchen sink, everything but the kitchen sink phase of discussion. So we're kind of waiting. And right now, the enabling legislation is there. It's been introduced by Senator Wiener, but it's still just in spot form. So kind of the stage is set, but none of the scenery or characters are on the stage yet. And we're kind of waiting for some of that to come forward. So overall, I think the big pictures that LAVTA has got our eyes on are, the funding, as I previously discussed, especially our top priorities, which is for our facility and our zero emission bus transition needs, making sure those funding sources are up and getting flowing where we need them. And then I would say still some ongoing challenges stemming from the pandemic, whether it's ridership recovery, operator retention, and then just general operating funding. I think those are our three big things I think we're looking at. And then in terms of what's actually going on out there in the world right now that we have to look at and respond to, I think the 4 big things are seeing that the state budget process carries out in the best interests of transit funding, keeping an eye out for proposed reforms around things like the Transportation Development Act, which is the quarter-cent sales tax that funds about half of our operating budget. So this is getting a close look from the state. A lot of the accountability measures were like suspended during COVID, and much like MTC did with the Blue Ribbon Transit Transformation Task Force, they're now kind of trying to take a statewide look at what are we asking our public transportation system to do throughout the state to meet the state's goals for things like equity and climate change, and all the other good things everybody wants out of us. Keeping an eye on MTC's regional measure discussions. We don't really know. They're now saying for the measure itself would be 2026 or later.
They're trying to come up with an acronym for it right now.
Yeah, so we're doing the board
There's
right now.
a survey out for.
But we're not. So, but the legislation will have to get firmed up this spring if it's gonna get, signed into law by the end of the year. And then finally, the wonderful things we've been hearing about, potential calls for transit agency consolidation in the Bay Area or beyond. There's a couple of bills out there, that have been offered and counter offered in this realm, and it's a lot to keep track of, but we are monitoring all of these things. So overall, I think our strategy will be working strategically with our partners. We don't really want to go it alone for any of this stuff because we're not a big player on our own, even though these are big issues to us. Our issues aren't necessarily big to others, when the decision-making process are going down. So working strategically with our partners, especially the California Transit Association, and then, looking at, some, targeted lobbying assistance, for, whether it's on a, coalition basis, like with other small operators to oppose specific proposals like consolidation, or, things that are more specific to our priorities, like earmarks or, funding for the Atlantis facility and things like that. Chrissy, did you want to?
I just wanted to add, we have an RFP out, for, lobbying services. This is something I've, been including in my executive director's report. We sent it out Friday to just a few firms. We are expecting proposals next Friday and to have a firm under contract by mid-February. So, we're looking forward to that. That's only a piece of it. That only takes care of us as a coalition. As Jennifer noted, we have different interests sometimes than our partner agencies, and so we will be looking at procuring a state and federal lobbyist just for LAVTA that could also assist us with grant writing. We are really, it's imperative that we get the funding for Atlantis and for hydrogen, within the next couple of years, so.
And then just real briefly, in terms of next steps from today, the committee can review and, I presented a draft for your approval, but I'd certainly welcome your input. I know you've probably got a lot of information, knowledge and perspective to offer, which, would be wonderful. And then upon approval by the board of directors next week, we can then begin the official process of sort of monitoring legislation, determining through analysis whether it's desirable to, support, oppose, seek amendment, or other strategies. And generally, these would come back to the Finance and Administration Committee when time permits, as bills move through the legislature. And then sometimes when matters come up as a matter of urgency in between meetings, then Christie, the resolution authorizes Christie to engage directly with the board chair on, specific directions. So that is the recommendation for today. Again, I've provided you with a draft set of advocacy principles to guide us, but I would certainly welcome your input. And of course, happy to answer your questions as always.
Great, thank you. Questions? All right. Comments? No, and nobody from the public.
No, I want to make a comment, with regards to Wahab's, bill being pushed forward. I am maybe gonna be meeting her tomorrow, not necessarily on that, on something else, but I shared my, my feelings with her this last weekend about, I understand that she wants to see some change. And I get it. I mean, transportation is very frustrating in the fact that you have so many different moving, like MTC, and then you have, now Valley Link, and you had BART, and you have all these different transportation agencies, and sometimes you feel, or even the resident may feel like none of them are talking to each other. And so, I mean, I understand from the, at the state level that I'm sure some other senators are probably viewing that as well too. And they just want the system to work a little bit more efficient for the rider. And also, as you know, I mean, just as the ridership has gone down because of COVID, which I always have said it's gonna take 5 years for them to come back up, but that's just my theory. And I just think that this was kind of gave maybe the state an opportunity to be able to bring this forward and say, listen, at least right now, there's an opportunity for it to change. And maybe we can take advantage of being able to see what's happened already in the past to move forward. So I told her, and I'll keep reiterating that, and I even said this when the mayors went out last week or the week before to DC is, you know, to get support from Congress to say, be mindful of changes that the state wants to do because of the fact that it hurts our local, small, one, control, but two, our smaller agencies. And I said, let's just be honest. The ridership in Dublin, it's students. It's students. And so I'm assuming it's for the, well, it is for the entire agency. It's all students. So I really think that before we get really stuck into what's happening in the transportation world of, you know, maybe because they're not being run as efficient, doesn't mean that we're not being run efficiently. And so that's what I've been, you know, trying to explain, and we'll explain to her, and hopefully we'll have time to chat about that tomorrow, but definitely just want to let you know that I've already been kind of working on that. With regards to, and I don't want to go backwards, but with regards to, hiring and putting an RFP out for someone in Sacramento and also in the federal, I think it's important because we, I feel, have lost opportunities. And like I said, I've been on this board for a long time now, and the, Atlantis has just always been like a maybe, like a pie in the sky project, and I need to see that really come to fruition and really make sure that there's movement moving forward because of the way the industry is going overall. So those are just my thoughts. Those are my comments.
And I'm sorry, did you say your discussion was with RBK? Is that who you were talking?
No, Wahab, because Wahab's the one that's bringing the bill. She's the one that, wants to.
It's SB 926.
Yeah, and I just really want to hear kind of like her insight, like,
Yeah.
you know, I see it from me putting my, you know, those shoes on and saying, okay, if I were he or she, you know, this is how I would feel. And so that's why, I really, it's just better for me to have that understanding and just kind of have that conversation with her.
And Diane Pappen introduced another bill that is, I think, a counter bill to Wahab's bill. I don't know the bill number. It's AB something, and it is talking more about coordination and cooperation between.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's, I think, that's what we want. And I know the Senator Wahab has been meeting with, she met with Mike Hirsch from AC Transit. You know, I think she's open to hearing from.
Oh, no, she's definitely open.
So
And that's what she said, like, she
Good.
wants to hear.
Good,
She
well,
wants to hear input.
if I can support you in that meeting in any way, please let me know.
Well, we're talking about something else, but. Well, I have,
Mention us,
well, I
mention
have
us,
on
come
you.
on, mention us. Just drop a.
That's what I'm saying.
We'll give you a squishy bus, yeah.
So, no, but and I've known Senator Wahab for years now, and I think she really does want to hear what other folks have to say, you know.
I just don't know what benefit a consolidated effort really will bring to our riders.
Well, that's why there's
That's
a
what
difference
problem-
between the local,
Yeah.
and then there's difference
And, yeah,
between like the bigger
bigger,
guys,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like, you
yeah.
know, Caltrain,
BART.
BART for sure.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Okay, good comments, and absolutely, I think that the, having the lobbyist is really valuable. I think it pays for itself at multiple times.
and there'll be a line of communication, like you will be working with them, whoever's
Oh,
like
yeah.
the best and the closest.
Okay. All right, if no further discussion, then we will, let's see, did we need we do need a recommendation, so we need a motion to recommend to,
The full board. I'll recommend we move this to the full board.
I'll second.
okay, all
And
right.
I'm sure we'll have further discussions then.
Yeah, we will be presenting. We won't sneak it on consent.
Always a good-
Okay, so we had a motion and
I know that.
a second? Yeah, Melissa? Yeah, okay, and all in favor? Aye, motion passes, okay. Move on to number 8, preview of upcoming finance and administration committee agenda items.
All right, so next month we'll have the usual minutes and treasurer's report. We will be bringing you our LC top allocation request for fiscal year 24. We will be bringing to you an on-call marketing contract award
That's actually probably going to get pushed to March.
to March, okay?
That's things happening.
Things happen. And, we will be sharing new board KPIs.
Yeah, so this is our effort to reimagine your board statistics in your packets. And so we want to bring that to the F&A committee, just to get your stamp of approval before we start rolling it out in our board packets. So this is your monthly ridership, accidents, on-time performance, complaints. You get a lot of information in your packets every month that go back 15 years in some cases with tiny little graphs that I cannot read. And so we want, Mike Tobin has been working on revamping those, and we will bring those to you. It'll be an information item, but we want to get your stamp of approval.
Okay,
And then, March, we will be bringing the RM2 allocation request for transit signal priority. April, we'll be bringing the funding resolutions for TDA, STA, RM2.
And budget.
And no measure BB. And the budget, this will not be a preliminary budget, this will hopefully be the final budget, because we really want the board to approve it in May. And then, in May, it looks like just minutes and treasurer's report, because the FTA triennial review won't be done by then, but we do have one coming up, just so you know, we don't have it scheduled yet, but it probably won't be done by May. And then June will be the treasurer's reports minutes, LAAF, yep. And the LAAF, we have to, every 2 years, do a resolution essentially saying that, you know, Christie can be in charge of that. They just have to update it. So that's it. Not anything too exciting as of right now. However, with funding and everything's on the horizon, that might be changing.
As we're talking about upcoming meetings, I will be in Chicago that entire week, so we gotta make sure that there's at least two.
Yeah, which month?
Is that the 27th?
Which month?
February.
Okay. I can do that.
Chicago in February.
I'm thrilled.
Sounds warm.
It's cold, isn't it?
Yeah.
I went to Chicago 5 years ago when my son, almost exactly 5 years ago last week, when my son graduated boot camp, and we went to the zoo in 17-degree weather.
Oh.
And it was in the negatives when he graduated. And as a California girl, I was like, I had to make sure my hair was completely dry before I could do it. It's crazy, but
Yeah,
very
I'm
Chicago's
not ready.
cool. But it's,
I went in
It's great.
October and I thought I would be experiencing it, but it was 77 the whole
Oh,
time
no.
I was
Yeah.
there, and they were like,
It
oh.
was like the best month.
So,
this will be different.
we'll see if I make it there. I'm just imagining I'll be stuck in a snowy airport.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Don't bring
Take your
Chicago.
closed-toe shoes and gloves.
And the
Layers.
public transportation ridership increases when it snows, which I think is great because here when it rains, it totally depletes, so.
Okay. All right, so let's move on to item 9, matters initiated by committee members. Are there any matters to initiate? Seeing none, we'll move on to number 10, next meeting date. All right, we just discussed that. And then,
Your gavel.
all things done, meetings adjourned.
Okay.